Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
Happy Friday. Good.
Happy Halloween. I hope you all had a happy Halloween. We're now in November.
Yeah. Week 9.
Week 9, we're halfway
beyond the halfway point.
Well, not yet. We still have Sunday, and then we reach the halfway point. But we are through the halfway point of the NFL season, which means I'm doing some form of top 10 list. I talked about a top 10 quarterback list on Tuesday. I decided to switch it up because I feel like putting like a Sam Darnold or Jared Goff, I think, would be a top 3 quarterback. And Mahomes may not have even been in my list. I don't want to cause controversy. I want to be more respectable, I would say. So I'm doing a top 10 team list, which I'll do at the top of the hour. But we have a lot to talk about, including last night. So it seems that the darkness that Rodgers was talking about has been lifted, supposedly, because after the Jets fell 25-22 to the New England Patriots last week, Rodgers had this to say in the postgame conference.
Yeah, I've been in the darkness. You got to go in there, make peace with it. Offensively, our goal has just got to be score 30. Doesn't matter what the other two sides are doing. You know, we have trust in our defense and teams, but if we're not scoring 30, we're underachieving. This offense can do that every single week.
So after he said that, it looks like they went out and were able to get a win. So I'm curious, do you think Rodgers pulled the Jets out of the darkness and turned their season around after Thursday night's win?
He pulled them out of the darkness, maybe, but I'm not sure he turned their season around. I mean, they were lucky in this game that the Texans didn't have either Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. Collins still recovering from his injury, and Diggs out for the season with a knee injury. So poor Stroud, he didn't really have too many people to throw to. All his throws were to Tank Dell, who was the big receiver with 6 catches for 126 yards. Stroud, he had a very pedestrian game, 11 for 30, 191 yards, no touchdowns. So I think the Texans were on demand in this game. The Jets defense did play well, though, I would have to say that, and the offense was respectable. With Rodgers 22 of 32, 211 yards, 3 TDs. And Hall running the ball 15 times for 74 yards. But the real thing, I think, in this game was they got Devontae Adams going. He had 7 receptions for 91 yards and a TD. And Wilson had 2, highlight reel catches in the game. And he had, I think, 9 catches for 90 yards or so. So the wide receivers were doing it. The running game was going. And Rodgers played well with no turnovers and 3 TDs. So that was enough for them, even though the total yards, the Texans were better than them, 322 to 293. In time of possession, the Texans had the ball 33 minutes and to the Jets 26. So, I don't think it was 21-13 was a win, and the Jets had 14 points in the fourth quarter to take the lead. So, I I don't think it was a dominating game by any stretch, and they were playing at home. They should have a little bit of advantage then. I say, you look at their season now, they could probably only lose one more game and still have a shot at the playoffs in my mind. And they've got the Cardinals at the Cardinals. Maybe they can win that game. The Colts at home. Well, Joe Flacco's stepped up now. He'll be really gunning for the Jets when he plays them at MetLife Stadium. They have the Seahawks. They should be able to beat them. The Seahawks seem to be falling apart. At the Dolphins, I don't know. The Dolphins now, Tua's back, but they lost their first game with him back. But maybe they get it going. That could be a hard game. At the Jaguars, they ought to be able to win that one. The Rams at home, the Rams are playing better. I'm picking them this week. The Bills, I don't think they can win that game at Bills. And then Dolphins again. So, I don't know. They got to kind of run the table. Maybe they can lose one. That would be the Bills. Can they beat all those other teams? They're not great teams. I mean, they have a weak schedule, so maybe they can do it. I don't know. I would say it's doubtful.
And I agree with you. I think it's very, very difficult because what we've seen so far is the Jets make the same mistakes and they somehow pulled out this win. And I think it's large in part due to the offensive line of the Texans just completely falling apart. Left guard was terrible in this game, ended up getting hurt, and is actually out for the year. So they're going to be on their third string left guard, but he was getting torched all game. C.J. Stroud, 8 sacks in this game, loss of, I think, 56 yards. I mean, it was pretty brutal. The offensive line could not hold up. It got so bad they had to do design rollouts so Stroud could at least push the ball down the field, and he had a couple beautiful throws to Tank Dell late, but Tank Dell was the offense. It's like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Who's the second option? Now, as the Texans currently stand, I barely have them as a top 10 team, so there's a little bit of a spoiler for later on in the show. But I think, in large part, the Texans have not been great. They've kind of been flying under the radar. But on primetime, Thursday Night Football, a lot of the problems presented itself that I think they've had all season. The offensive line can't hold up very well. If injured, C.J. Stroud has one guy he could target, and I think the Jets did a phenomenal job in the second half stopping Joe Mixon's big-time runs because he was really the X factor in the first half to even allow the Texans to be up. But as soon as they stopped Joe Mixon, it was, okay, pressure. C.J. Stroud pressured on 55% of his dropbacks. Hassan Reddick's second game with the Jets, he had a great time, nearly got a sack. I think right now the Texans have a bit of an issue. The division should be theirs with the Jaguars having one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. The Colts right now are on their backup quarterback, Joe Flacco, who crazy enough to think, I think actually gives them a better shot at winning more games. And I just think when it comes down to it, the Texans will win this division. And I think they left a lot of points on the board. C.J. Stroud had a fumble. I think it was the second drive of the game. There was a missed pass interference call on a trick play. C.J. Stroud going out for a pass. There should have been at least defensive holding, if not straight up pass interference on that trick play. And there was also late in the game, Stroud actually missed a wide open touchdown to Mechie, which would have been a walk-in touchdown. He completely missed it way too far to the left. So the Texans have a lot of glaring issues, especially for a quarterback that a lot of people put in the top 10, and a team that I think a lot of people have as serious playoff contenders, and maybe a team that can make it far in the playoffs, I think. But as it stands right now, the Texans have a lot of issues, primarily offensive line, which is rated, I think, 19th or 20th according to Pro Football Focus. But the first half, Rodgers looked like he has been looking during this 5-game losing streak. He had a 50% completion percentage for only 27 yards in the first half. They could do nothing offensively. Thank God for a great Jets defense. And this is really the first time since Robert Saleh got fired that the Jets defense stepped up in a big-time way. But Joe Mixon was getting all the yards he wanted to in the first half. The offense for the Jets couldn't do anything. This first play of the game, Rodgers missed a wide-open Davante Adams on the right side. That would have been at least a massive gain, or would have been a touchdown on the first play. And that's the way that it kind of looked like. The Jets, it would be another disappointing loss on prime time. But this actually does continue the streak, crazy enough, of home teams doing well on Thursday Night Football. We actually picked against that in this game. We both had the Texans winning and upsetting the Jets. They were plus 2-point underdogs. So maybe for betting purposes on Thursdays, bet the home team still, because I believe they're undefeated so far this season.
That's an interesting stat.
But Nico Collins is going to come back soon. That's a positive thing for the Houston Texans. Stephon Diggs out for the year with a torn ACL. But offensive play calling in the second half, they are we talk about the Chargers averaging a little bit above 5 points a game, 5 points per second half this season. The Texans, they showed in the bottom left. They're minus, at least entering this game, they were minus 41 points point differential in the second half compared to the first, but they were like, what was it, plus 71, something like that? So we talk about bad second half teams with the Chargers. The Texans are right there. They can't do anything in the second half. Is it because they show all their cards immediately? We're going to be a heavy run team and use C.J. Stroud to pass when he needs to? Because Joe Mixon could get anything he wanted in the first half. Then the second half, the Jets are like, okay, they're going to run it a bunch.
Yeah.
They opened the game actually heavy pass. And then the offense could do nothing. And then they finally went to Joe Mixon, and it was like 7-yard gain, 10-yard gain, 13-yard gain, 7-yard gain. The offense started to pick up. Red zone offense was abysmal. 1-4 in the red zone for the Texans. The Jets did a phenomenal job stopping C.J. Stroud, really pressuring him. And I think that's actually where a majority of his sacks came in, which was in the red zone. So props to the Jets, but I agree with you. I don't think this is a big turnaround. I think that I mentioned on Tuesday, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. After this game, there's a light. I'm not saying they're close to it. Hell, they might not even be walking towards it. There is a light now present for the Jets season.
Well, they haven't shown that they can beat poor teams, really, right? I mean, they lost to the Patriots last week. They've got some poor teams that they're going to be playing. I don't know. The Cardinals have been playing better. I think that could be a tough game for them. They're at the Cardinals. The Colts will have Flacco in there with a full game of experience for him with that offense going into the game, and he's going to want to beat them badly, I'm sure. I just don't see him beating the Bills, and they've lost 6 games already. Lose 7 games and still make the playoffs? I don't know. It's going to be very close. 10-7,
I forget
maybe.
The time span, but any team that has a 5-game losing streak has a 2.2% chance to even make the playoffs, let alone do well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Texans kicker missed a couple kicks, one of which was a chip shot.
I see Zerline is out now. They have another kicker in there. They put him on the injured list. I don't know whether he's really hurt or they.
I'm sure he is if you go on IR.
Yeah.
But no, all around, Texans played extremely poorly. C.J. Stroud had a bad game. Jets, they played very well. Rodgers had a good game. Defense stepped up in a massive way. This was the first time the Jets actually, I would say, clicked.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams got a touchdown.
How about Corley's play where he dropped the ball before he crossed?
Young guy makes a mistake. I don't understand. We see that there's a number of times that these receivers, these running backs, just drop the ball before they enter the end zone. Take a couple steps in the end zone before you drop the ball. I don't understand what that is. Yes, that made it to the Texans' ball, but still. I think that this should have been a nice win for the Texans, and it looked like it. Go up 7-0 early. Rodgers does poorly late, and then the Texans kind of let him off the hook. C.J. Stroud with a fumble. Offense was stagnant. Jets defense coming up big in the red zone. The left guard absolutely getting torched by Williams. I think this is just a bad game for the Texans. They need to bounce back because I think, Trevor Lawrence has looked decently the past couple weeks. I think if they get something rolling, the Texans will start falling here.
The Texans are still 6-3.
I know.
So I don't. What the Jaguars have won 2 games.
I can tell you right.
2 games. They won 2 games.
That's bad. But still, Indy's 4-4. They're also right there. If the Texans get into a tiny bit of a losing streak, because right now their next couple games are against the Lions, Cowboys, Titans, and Jaguars. Those are the next 4 games. Lions on Sunday Night Football. Then you go over to Monday Night Football, 2 primetime games.
Should be the worst case. They go 2-2 again in those 4 games, I think.
Then you finish it out with Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans. It's a difficult end. You needed to start picking up wins now.
8, 9, 10. You got to get 10 or 11 wins to get into the playoffs. So they should be able to do that.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna move on to our next topic here. So I predicted Dodgers in 7. You got Yankees at 7, and end up being only 5 games because on Wednesday the Dodgers overcame a 5-run deficit. First time in the World Series, you go down 5-0 and come back and win. Game 5, errors all around. Yankees ended up making it 6-5 late. Dodgers responded, making it 7-6, and that was enough to claim their 8th World Series title. The first parade they're going to get. They won back in 2020, but that was a bit of an asterisk because
1988 was the last time they won it.
Well, no, they won it
in 2020, but that was a shortened season.
So are you one of those people that put an asterisk next to it saying?
No, it's a shortened season. I mean, the first time full season that they've won it in a long time.
Fair enough. Aaron Boone falls short once again, but I'll give them credit. They finally made a World Series. I believe it's the first since 2009.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Yankees fans want to approach this as a positive or a negative. At least you made the World Series.
They'll make it a negative because they didn't win.
That's
a Yankee fan. They're beating up on Aaron Boone. It was all his fault. I'd say Aaron Judge, there's some of the blame, too. He had a decent game in Game 5, but every other game he was missing in action.
Well, I want to get into the question, though. They absolutely crushed the Dodgers in Game 4, and they were up 5-0 in this game against the Dodgers in Game 5. Are you surprised they closed it out in only 5 games?
I am. I thought it would go 7, and I thought the Yankees would win it in 7. So I was surprised. And also, after Ohtani got hurt, I said, hey, here's a chance for the Yankees to get back in it. They did win 1 game, but after that, the other night, I think they were exposed by the thing that haunted them during the year. Their poor defense and their poor base running. They were the worst base running team in the league, and their defense is spotty. They overcame it during the season with their superstar talent. They're hitting home runs all over the place, and that covered up for their mistakes. It came back to haunt them, particularly in Game 5. When you look at the 5th inning miscues, the Yankees giving up the 5 runs. The 5th inning Yankee errors. Judge bobbling a routine fly ball. That's his first error all year. He didn't have any errors all year long, and that was his first one. Very critical time. Volpe couldn't make the accurate throw to third base. That was a problem. Then Cole didn't cover first base for what would have been the inning-ending ground ball. So shame on them. I mean, their sloppiness with the overwhelming talent, I think, is the sloppy with overwhelming talent. That's how you define the Yankees, and it caught up to them in the most important game of the year.
And that's the shocking thing, just how poor their fielding was. Although we shouldn't be that surprised because throughout the regular season, they did have the 7th most errors in Major League Baseball. So bad fielding is definitely something that I think a lot of Yankees fans are used to. But we have to realize, they opened the year as one of, if not the best team in baseball. And, in the last couple months or so, they were a 500 team. So they went very hot very quickly and then cooled off to a 500 team. They could not stop Freddie Freeman. He had 4 home runs and 12 RBIs. Shohei Ohtani went down with an injury, had a shoulder injury, but came back out and just could not hit the same. But I would say the same issues that we've seen the past couple of years presented itself and continually present itself in the playoffs. This team relies heavily on Aaron Judge. And if he's a no-show, because he was a non-fact in the ALDS and the ALCS, he batted, 161? He couldn't really do anything. But thank God Stan and Soto were hitting bombs. That was really the only reason why they were here, is because Stan kept hitting clutch home runs, and then Soto hit a couple home runs in extra innings to really put that series away against the Guardians. He had a 3-run home run in Game 5. But I think, and I'm going to be honest, and we're going to talk about this with a special guest later on, I don't think any NLCS team would have lost to the Yankees. I think the Mets would have won, and the Dodgers did win. That's what I think, because the Yankees had poor hitting, they had relatively poor bullpen, and I think that was a massive problem for them in this series. It didn't matter, and here's the crazy thing. It didn't matter if you walked batter 1. It didn't matter if you got batter 3 out. It didn't matter if you intentionally walked batter 6. The next guy could hit a bomb over your head. Kike Hernandez came in as sort of a backup piece. He had a number of clutch hits throughout the playoffs. Shohei Ohtani, just the presence of him, you do not want to pitch to him, just in case. And we saw it immediately in Game 1. I mean, we were watching it together. The first couple batters, Mookie, Shohei, they were near home runs in Game 1, their first at bat. And I think a problem in Game 1, you look at Garrett Cole, he pitched phenomenal in Game 1. But they took him out with only 75 pitches? And then look at the end. Was it Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam?
Yeah.
And then you go into now Game 5. Garrett Cole pitched very well up until the 5th inning.
Game 1, they blew it.
I agree.
They had the lead 3-2 in the bottom of the 9th, and they couldn't close it out. That's where they blew it. If they stolen one game there in Los Angeles, then they would be at least going back to Los Angeles now for game 6 and 7. Didn't happen. And I think, you mentioned the Yankees pitching. Yeah, they had the lead last night twice. They had it going into the top of the 8th. 2 sacrifice flies by Lux and Mookie Betts, and they got down by 1 run. And you look at the Dodgers players, Freddie Freeman. Wow, what a series, huh? And Mookie Betts too. That top of the lineup for the Dodgers, even without Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, Hernandez. They had great games. Each had 2. All 3 of them had 2 RBIs in the game 5. So, and Flaherty, he wasn't. They got to him. He only pitched 1.1 inning. And they gave up 4 hits and 4 runs. Then they did the bullpen thing, and their bullpen's great, the Dodgers, and they made it work for them. And the Yankees, on the other hand, Garrett Cole, he was fine until the Yankees had no defense behind him in the 5th inning, gave up those 5 runs, and then Canley at the end gave up those sac flies.
And I think Yankees fans are like, well, we could have turned it around. I think let's add a little bit of context to that one victory. It was against a bullpen game, against not even their best relievers. So I don't think that Yankees fans should be, like, oh, okay, we could have set history. We could have made history and really set the tone. Yeah, Shohei was injured and not performing very well. You couldn't stop Freeman. Couldn't stop Betts. Kike Hernandez was still an X factor. Teoscar Hernandez had a couple beautiful hits, clutch hits. So it didn't matter if Shohei was down, and that's what's great about the Dodgers. Like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter if it's the first batter, 4th batter, 7th batter, 9th batter. They always have X factors throughout their entire batting order. So it's and now there's obviously rumors, Soto hitting free agency, that the Dodgers could go out and try to get Soto.
Oh, that wouldn't be fair if they had him. They'd have Mookie Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, and Soto. It'd be crazy. How do they afford it? I don't get it. I mean, they win the World Series. That's good for their gate. I'm sure they're selling a lot of jerseys that say Dodgers World Series champion.
And I also that 5th inning was bad, but we have to realize that a little bit later on in the game, Ohtani steps up to the bat. You get catcher's interference on the first pitch. Like, it went from bad to really bad to what are we doing to okay. We've lost it. This game's theirs, basically. Like it was a nice exponential decline into just, yeah, we're done. The series is over. Dodgers got the best of us. Because, I mean, after the 5th inning, I'm sure everyone's like, we're up 5-0. It's 5-5.
But the Yankees did take the lead.
Right, it was 6-5. Yeah, exactly. But I think at that point, you look at the way that you look at how you played. Yeah, you're up 6-5. Where's the momentum, though? You're up 5-0. The Dodgers had the momentum, even though they were down 6-5. The Dodgers still had all the momentum because they came back from 5-0.
Yeah,
and then they ended up closing it out. So yes, you did win a game.
Freddie Freeman, the MVP.
Freeman, the MVP, very well deserved. I mean,
home run every game,
tied for the most RBIs in World Series history
with only 5, and did it in 5 games.
Did it in 5 games too. So no, this was and. I thought about being sort of a negative person here, but I'm gonna throw this out here to whatever connotation that anyone wants to take it. The Dodgers are the MLB's version of the Boston Celtics this year. You bought in fully, just like the Celtics did last year. You're expected to win the World Series. This should be no surprise that the Dodgers won this year. You went out, bought Shohei Ohtani. You kept him in Los Angeles. And he's the best player in baseball in my mind. You're expected to win the World Series. So to me, this was not a shock at all. This is where they belong.
Not a shock.
And I would say that you should be excited if you're a Dodgers fan. But if you look at it, it's okay. The NBA, the Boston Celtics bought a bunch of players, brought them in. They're expected to win. The Dodgers, this is the MLB's version of the Boston Celtics.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Wait, you bought the top guys. You paid for them.
In the end, the Mets gave the Dodgers a tougher time than the Yankees did.
And that's why I said that I think that if the Mets were in the World Series, the Yankees still would have lost. The Dodgers were in the World Series, the Yankees did lose. So to me, didn't matter. I think any AL team, obviously. The Yankees would have beaten them, as they always do. AL Central, Yankees take care of them generally. But it looked like the National League was just overall better than the Yankees were.
I think the Dodgers are lucky that in the bottom of the ninth, the Yankees are the bottom of the lineup because they brought Buehler in, who's normally a starter, and every time he's been a reliever, he's done terribly. But he got him out 1, 2, 3.
And that's another thing, too, because that was his third straight day of pitching. Like, I understand Luke Weaver was doing tremendous throughout the entire postseason, but third straight day of pitching, you are treading a very fine line there. With
Weaver.
Weaver, yeah. Is he going to run on adrenaline and somehow get through 3 outs, or is he going to collapse? And in this one, he did collapse eventually. Yeah. So, Boone took a swing and he missed. Yeah. Big time.
Well, they'll blame him for it. They like to blame
he'll be back,
Aaron Boone. He's going to be back for sure. He took the team to the World Series, and they had a down stretch in the middle of the season where they were playing terribly, and they got him out of that rut, and they did make the World Series. Now they're going to have to go out and try to get Soto, I think. Don't you? I mean,
it's going to cost you a lot.
Yeah, well,
because Soto already said
they have the money.
He's not backloading his contract like Shohei did.
Yeah,
he wants a nice thought out money up front. Give it to me now. He doesn't want to defer it 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
So maybe the Dodgers can't afford him. Although, who knows at this point? They might be able to. Who knows? I think it's time. I think this is my first top 10 list I've done all season. I do this. I haven't done it this season, but I generally do this a lot throughout the NFL season or throughout the year, actually, top 10 lists, ranking things. This time we're doing the top 10 teams. I think I've done this over the course of doing the show a couple times here, but the first time I'm doing it this season, we're halfway through the year, basically, so let's begin with number 10.
Number 10.
This one might shock a lot of people. I'm going the Denver Broncos. They've stepped it up big time in the past couple weeks. Right now, they're 5-3 in Bo Nix after having 2 very poor weeks who seem to hit a hot streak. The defense right now is 3rd in points allowed and 3rd in total defense. They also are 3rd. They have the 3rd best red zone defense as well. Levi Wallace and Pat Surtain are ranked as the 2nd best cornerback duo in the NFL. They are shutting down top receivers, especially Pat Surtain shutting down everybody. Bo Nix has come alive in October, ranking 1st in completion percentage, pass yards, touchdown interception ratio, 2nd in passer rating among rookies. He's really stepped it up big. Now, this will be a true test. He's been up on some decently bad teams. He's versing the Ravens in this week. How will he do? I expect somewhat of the same. Obviously, going against a top-tier team like the Ravens is going to be difficult, but I think with the defense that the Broncos have, they'll be able to slow down Lamar Jackson just a little bit to make it at least somewhat of a respectable game, being 9.5-point underdogs. Number 9. I got the Houston Texans. They just lost to the New York Jets 21-13. It was a bad loss, though. Offense wasn't clicking. Defense really couldn't stop Rodgers in the second half. Offense was anemic in the second half. The offensive line is in shambles right now, losing your backup left guard. Joe Mixon is still the best part of this offense with Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs out currently. Nico Collins should be back, and that should help out C.J. Stroud in the long run, but they're one of the worst second-half offenses in the NFL. And I think that going into the second half of the season, playing teams like the Chiefs, it's going to be very difficult for the Houston Texans team to remain as dominant as they have been throughout the first half of the season. Now, they've had a couple bad losses, but they were able to really shut down the Buffalo Bills, making Josh Allen complete 30% of his passes. If the Texans continue that, I think they'll be a decent playoff contender, but at least for right now, coming off a bad loss, I got them at number 9.
Number 8.
I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. This is interesting because Justin Fields made this offense not look great. They had 166 passing yards on average, while Russell Wilson has really attacked the passing game. 295.5 passing yards a game, so that's 295.5 to a little over 166 for Justin Fields. So the passing game for the Steelers has ramped up pretty nicely. The defense, though, 2nd in points allowed, 9th in total defense. They also have the 2nd best red zone defense. They're not allowing teams to score touchdowns, which obviously creates opportunities for Justin Fields to go 4-2, for Russell Wilson to keep the offense alive. And Najee Harris has also come alive the past 3 weeks with back-to-back 100 rushing yard games. I think I think that the defense, though, is obviously the answer. TJ Watt had a tiny bit of a cold streak, but ramped it up last week against the Giants. I think that the Steelers have shocked a lot of people in the first 8 weeks, but the last 9 weeks of play, will really show how good the Steelers are going up against a lot of teams in the division, the Chiefs included, the Browns with Jameis Winston. We'll see what the Bengals look like. The Steelers have the most difficult second half schedule in the NFL, so we'll see what Russell Wilson or maybe Justin Fields could do. Let's go with number 7.
Number 7.
I got the Green Bay Packers here. They lead the league in explosive plays right now. Jordan Love is 3rd in passing touchdowns. The defense also has been taking the ball away like nobody else. They're 1st in takeaways. They also are 1st in opponent drives ending in a turnover. The Packers also have the 5th best rushing attack in the NFL. But here's my issue, though. They should be number 6 or even number 5 maybe to some people, but I think with Jordan Love's turnovers, he's got to tone it down. Completion percentage also not that high. So if he could tone down the turnovers, increase the completion percentage, and also he's banged up. He's a game-time decision so far. So we'll see if he comes out here against a serious division opponent in the Detroit Lions. But the Packers, they're 6-2, riding high. I think Matt LaFleur right now, he should be a top 4, maybe even top 3 head coach in the NFL right now. They did get a much-needed win, but it was close against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They won 30-27, but the Packers right now take the number 7 spot from me.
Number 6.
I got the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I think 3 weeks ago you asked me, I put them as the top 3 team in the NFL. They are sliding right now. 2 straight losses in this one. 30-20 loss against the Los Angeles Rams, but they did have Puka Nacua back. They did have Cooper Kupp back. I think the loss to the Rams definitely hurt them because guess what? They missed the refs missed a face mask in the end zone, which ultimately ended the game because that ended up being a safety, Rams ball. They used to be the best defense in the NFL. They're blitzing like nobody else. Brian Flores generating pressure, giving quarterbacks a difficult time in the pocket. But I think recently, if you get the ball out quick, make the right read early on, you could kind of expose this Minnesota Vikings defense. But when you have the best receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones having a great season so far, coming up big and coming up clutch, and T.J. Hawkinson still trying to make his way back. Sam Darnold hasn't been great recently, but can he maintain a level of consistency that allows the Vikings to at least make some big-time plays and push them far? I think currently the answer is yes. We'll see how the season progresses, but right now the answer is yes. I got the Vikings in number 6.
Number 5.
I got the Washington Commanders. 3rd best offense in the NFL. Defense has stepped up big time as of late. They're 11th in points allowed, 13th in total defense. Jaden Daniels, I think right now is locked up unless, he completely falls off the face of the earth and Caleb Williams picks it up here. But I think that Jaden Daniels, I know it's only halfway through the season, I think he's locked up Rookie of the Year, at least in my mind. I think the biggest shock for the Washington Commanders coming out last season, seeing how Austin Eckler was leading one of the worst rushing attacks for the Chargers, stepping up this time, contributing, along with Brian Robinson, contributing to the 3rd best rushing offense in the NFL. I think that's what's shocking. Last week, the Commanders had their best pressure rate all year. 60% pressure rate on the Chicago Bears, whose offensive line has picked it up a little bit. The Commanders did a great job stopping Caleb Williams. They won 18-15 with the Hail Mary. This is one of the most fun teams to watch in my mind. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders take my number 5 spot.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the Baltimore Ravens. They suffered a bad loss last week, going up against Jameis Winston, and somehow you pull out a bad loss. But Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are still having tremendous seasons so far. Derrick Henry is actually projected to be the first player in NFL history to have 2 2,000-yard rushing seasons, which is utterly ridiculous. But the major shock from last year to this year, the defense is abysmal. 26th in points allowed, 25th in total defense, dead last in passing defense. The Ravens really can't stop anybody. It's only when Lamar Jackson in this offense could just outscore you that really, if you make one mistake, you're going to be screwed. If you throw an interception early, Lamar Jackson in this offense is going to run right down and at least put up some form of points. Right now, Lamar is number 2 in MVP voting. I think he has a serious shot at getting his 3rd MVP, or at least leading in MVP voting by the time the season ends. Lamar's having a great year. Derrick Henry having a phenomenal year. But right now, this defense is costing them a top 3 spot in my mind. A bad loss against Jameis Winston, who, let's be honest, doesn't garner a lot of respect because of his history with turnovers. Now, he had recent success with the Saints, 14-3 with Sean Payton. Coming over here now to the Cleveland Browns, had a phenomenal game. Defense gave the Browns their first 300+ yard passer and first 400 total yard game this season. That's bad. You decrease now from the top 3 team to a number 4 team. Let's go on to number 3.
Number 3.
I got the Buffalo Bills. They've stepped it up now. 31-10 to the Seahawks after the Seahawks defense shut down really anything they could do the prior week. Josh Allen finally threw his first interception this season, but it didn't matter. The offense was just way too explosive. The Bills defense only allowed 32 rushing yards last week. Yes, the Seahawks do lead the league in passing yards, but what has it really amounted to? Not much in my mind. Their win against Seattle was their fourth win by 21 or more points this season, which is utterly ridiculous. And guess what? This is their third straight victory since back-to-back losses. The Bills have hit a hot streak. Josh Allen currently leads in MVP voting. If James Cook and this offensive run game, if they have any ounce of success, that only benefits Josh Allen. It is Joe Brady's system, have an effective running game. If you don't have that, you're kind of screwed, and the Bills have been able to have that. The addition of Amari Cooper helps massively, adds another severe offensive threat to that Bills offense, and the defense has had its moments. They go up against the Miami Dolphins this week. And are the Dolphins a good team? No. Are the Bills a good team? Yes. What does Tua do against against good teams? Not much. I'm going to talk about that later on in the show. So the Bills should continue their success here. I got the Bills as the number 3 team so far through 8 weeks. My number 2 spot.
Number 2.
This might shock a lot of people. I got the Kansas City Chiefs. They're undefeated. I understand. They're 7-0. They have nice wins over Cincinnati, Baltimore, and San Francisco. San Francisco, Brock Purdy shot himself in the foot 3 times. Baltimore, they were a toe and a Lamar Jackson rainbow throw over Isaiah Likely away from losing that game. Cincinnati, if Joe Burrow doesn't fumble and really just a bad 4th and 13 pass interference call on the Bengals, those would have been 3 losses so far this season. Lamar's having the worst season of his career, though. 8 touchdowns, 9 picks, only 235.9 passing yards a game. He's not having a good year at all. The defense has been keeping the Chiefs in these games. Really, the defense has been the key for a lot of these games. Open up the season. Lamar Jackson having a difficult time in the pocket. They had Justice Hill blocking Chris Jones. What are you doing? Way too many mistakes offensively, though. Patrick Mahomes putting the ball in harm's way too many times, and you had a way too close victory against a divisional rival of the Las Vegas Raiders. That's a problem. You only won 27-20. I expect more from what people are calling now better than Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I expect better. They are 7-0. But I think if a team plays perfectly, which a couple of these teams can do, whether it be the AFC or the NFC, if you just tone down the bad mistakes and capitalize, I think the Chiefs will start losing games. But if they keep winning, who says? If they keep winning 2 more games, 17-0 is definitely on the board for me. But number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs, which leaves one team that I think a lot of people are not expecting to be here. Should be a top 3 team for me, the number 1, which is...
Number 1.
I got the Detroit Lions. Number 1 offense in the NFL, 33.4 points per game, 8th in points allowed for defense. They have the best rushing attack duo in the NFL. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been dominant throughout the entire season. And it doesn't matter. If Montgomery's having a bad game, well, there's Jahmyr Gibbs. If Jahmyr Gibbs not having an effective game, David Montgomery could break out for a couple runs. They're beating teams by an average margin of 17.3 points. They are blowing out teams. The defense, yes, can be shaky, but the offense has been so good that it doesn't really matter. The Titans gave them some worry. It didn't matter. Jared Goff threw under 50 yards, I think? Did not matter. They put up 52 points last week. It's ridiculous. Jared Goff, though, we have to talk way more about Jared Goff because what he's been doing since week 2 has been shocking. 83.5% completion percentage, which ranks first. 11.9 yards an attempt. First, remember when everyone was harking on Brock Purdy's yards per attempt? Can we give Jared Goff some love at least? 11.9 yards an attempt. That ranks first, like I said. 9 touchdowns, 1 pick. That touchdowns is tied for 6th in that time frame, while only 1 interception is tied for the 3rd best in that time frame. He's also the 4th highest graded quarterback by Pro Football Focus. Jared Goff, he has a serious case for MVP, but I think just based on reputation, I don't think he'll get, for instance, I would give Dan Campbell right now Coach of the Year. The way that his star player on defense, the best defender in the NFL up to that point, goes down and is injured, and the defense could still be as dominant as it has been, I mean, come on, give Dan Campbell some credit here. I understand Dan Quinn's having a great year. Yeah, there are a couple of coaches out here that are shocking the world. Kevin O'Connell, I would agree. But if the Vikings start losing, here's the thing. If the Vikings start losing, I don't think Kevin O'Connell will be the favorite. I think when it comes down to it, if the Lions and the Commanders both have basically consistent seasons, as they have been right now, I would give it to Dan Campbell. I would. I understand. Shocking. Jaden Daniels given the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'd give the Coach of the Year to Dan Campbell. He's done tremendous the past couple of years. He's built a culture there. The Lions believe in something, and they are a city of just failure, disappointment. Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford doing nothing in the playoffs, not making NFC Championship game for like 30 years, not winning their division for like over 20 years. I mean, it's been bad so far, but this is a serious competitor in the NFL now. They are my Super Bowl team. Maybe I'm biased. This is my Super Bowl team. Detroit Lions, for me, are the number one team in the NFL through 8 weeks. As, of course, I bring you in. Hate, love, indifferent. How do you feel about my
I think you're right on. The only thing I would swap would be the Packers and the Vikings.
Which NFL.com actually has. They have Packers 6, Vikings 7.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, the Lions and Packers are playing this week, right?
Yes.
The Vikings have lost 2 in a row. If they lose 3 in a row, then maybe they're falling a little further down.
Potentially.
But, I would have had the swap the Steelers and the Texans, but the Texans losing last night to the Jets, to me, that drops them down to number 9. I agree with you.
What do you think of the Broncos 10? I'm sure people don't agree with that. The Eagles, and by the way, if anyone's wondering where the Eagles are, they're number 11.
Yeah, I think
I don't trust them, though. That's why they're not in the top 10.
I think the Eagles have played a lot better since the bye.
Yes, great win over Cincinnati last week.
And their defense has really stepped up. Fangio has really got them playing well now. Also, Jalen Hurts not making the mistakes anymore. He's had 2 very solid games without making bad mistakes. So that keeps going. Then I think the Eagles will move up into the top 10.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we got a special guest to talk about Anthony Richardson getting benched, as well as recapping his team, the New York Jets, getting a much-needed victory over the Houston Texans. We'll talk about that along with our guest right after this break.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast, your food podcast, your mindfulness podcast, your Never Thought You'd Get This Far podcast, and watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen and find out who they're cooking with, where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show, along with our special guest, my brother. Let's jump right into it. My brother, John Harvey. First off, how are you doing on this Friday evening?
Doing great, Nate. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Anytime, we're always welcome on the Harvey Hour. And we talked to my brother a bunch of times throughout this show. A lot about the Mets, Rodgers, Jets, all of it. Let's jump down into an interesting topic, though. Anthony Richardson getting benched. This is the first time Richardson got benched. Now, he only played, I think, 5 games. Not great. Really, Richardson has been all over the place. Worst completion percentage in the NFL, 44.4%. Not great. In favor of Joe Flacco, he's being benched for. I don't know, though. Do you think that benching Anthony Richardson was the correct move this early into the season?
At this point, I think it makes sense for them. They're competent enough that they can win games with a decent quarterback. That being said, I don't think this is the end for Anthony Richardson. The league has a history of giving up on quarterbacks way too early. Some of the examples that come to mind being Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and all of these guys have had career resurgences later on. So I think there's plenty of time for Richardson to turn it around, but I think sitting behind Flacco for a bit will benefit him.
Here's something that I've already heard. Do you think Shane Steichen, head coach of the Colts, is the problem?
No, I don't think so. I think that he's a decent coach. It's still, pretty early in his head coaching career. I think the team can turn it around. It's just going to take some time. There's a lot of building that needs to be done in Indianapolis to really get things to where they need to be.
Interesting, because when I take a look at the team, I like him. Michael Pittman, I think he's borderline superstar receiver. He's definitely a star. Jonathan Taylor, superstar running back. Offensive line, Pro Football Focus grades as the best pass-blocking offensive line. To me, when I look at Richardson, he looks more like a Madden player. Just step back, deep throws, always dialing up deep plays. So for me, he's trying to do the hard. It's like Caleb Williams entering the NFL. We were worried about, well, is he going to take the easy stuff or is he going to make the superstar play? Richardson kind of is that, but already in the NFL. He's trying to make the difficult plays instead of taking the easy ones.
Well, my thought on it, as I mentioned earlier in the week, is that Richardson is still a rookie, really. He was hurt pretty early in the season last year, was out for the whole year, and now he's coming back, and he's having a tough time in his sophomore year when it's really is rookie plus one, as I look at it. I don't see that he's had that much experience yet, and they put him in, and as you say, they have him throwing the deep ball all the time. I think they need to maybe dink and dunk a little bit, help him get a little rhythm going or something.
I would agree with that. I think this really is a continuation of his rookie year. He just needs to continue to learn. He's still so new. And he seems to try to play hero ball a lot. He looks almost as though he's playing football in a schoolyard rather than on an NFL field. But I think that will go away with time and experience. This is far from unheard of in the NFL. So he's still got time to turn it around.
I agree with that. I think, though, that if he doesn't get back in there this season, I want to ask both you guys.
You can go first, John.
Do you think that's the end of Chris Ballard, their GM? Will that be the end? He was signed up to draft the franchise quarterback for them. And if Richardson doesn't get back in there, do you think they'll fire Ballard?
I don't think so, because if Richardson doesn't make it back in there, I think that there's a pretty good chance they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, he's keeping his job anyway, because regardless of who the quarterback is, if the team is winning, he'll keep his job. They're early enough in the rebuild. I don't think they're going to push him out right away.
And I would say, though, it hasn't been personnel fault. I think right now Josh Downs doesn't look like a bad receiver. Pittman re-signing him, I think, was a key. They also have A.D. Mitchell, another receiver. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, that's a great pickup. They built one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. For me, this is just purely Richardson. It just hasn't had enough time. He doesn't play, well enough to really say, well, he's our franchise guy. Now, here's the difference between me and you, John. I have the Colts looking at another quarterback. I think when we come to the NFL, it's a win-now business. Now, it didn't always be that way, where it was, okay, you have time to develop. But now, we have such great quarterback talent immediately out of college that it's, okay, well, if we don't find the guy, 2-3 years, we're going to be done with him.
I think I disagree with that to some extent, Nate, because, yes, there is some talent coming out of college, but at the same time, it is much harder, it seems, to pick quarterbacks than some people believe.
Absolutely. 100%.
Clearly, in the Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams situation, Caleb Williams had been the definite number one pick for, the better part of 2 years?
Yeah.
And clearly, it looks like they may have missed on that.
Really? Ooh,
so,
we don't have Caleb Williams as a topic, but that's interesting.
Well, it's not that he's a bad quarterback, but when you put him side by side with Jaden Daniels talking about the great talent coming right out of college, I would argue that, if that were really the case, the number one player every year would be a hit in the draft. And I don't think Caleb Williams has 100% shown that yet.
Well, certainly Bryce Young hasn't.
Yeah,
he was the number one pick last year.
That's another great example.
When I take a look at Richardson, right? A lot of people say, well, he's extremely athletic, and that's what I think a lot of people were sort of praising coming out of college. Like, okay, well, maybe he's not a developed passer. Maybe he needs to work on reading defenses. But you know what? He could run the football. John, his injuries have come from design runs. So right now, the Colts are in a lose-lose situation. He doesn't complete passes, and when he breaks out for runs, it's either he's going to get a decent amount of yards or end up hurting out for a decent amount of time.
Well, that's a coaching issue, and teaching him that he really needs to protect himself. As much as, yes, these are designed runs, he can't be running out into people and risking himself. He needs to get out of bounds. He needs to really get out of the way.
Right.
I think this is something that every young, mobile quarterback needs to learn. Some do it better than others, and Richardson really needs to work on that so he doesn't end up like this long list of quarterbacks whose careers are ending way too soon because they just get so banged up.
Yeah. I want to switch gears now. I want to go over to your team, the New York Jets, 5-game losing streak. You fired your head coach. You got Jeff Ulbrich in there. You go on a 3-game losing streak after you get that new head coach and new play caller change. You go out last night, Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, D'Amico Ryans, now a beloved coach, I believe, really on a hot streak while your team was reeling. Your quarterback, Rodgers, calling out how the Jets are in the darkness. He needs to be comfortable with the darkness, and hey, they pulled out a very nice win. Devontae Adams touchdown, Garrett Wilson. A lot of people are now debating in sports media today about how is his catch better than OBJ's. In your opinion, did the Jets turn around their season last night with that win?
I think it's far too early to say that. The Jets are still going to win games purely on the talent of their roster. Does that mean that they're a great team, that they're a true threat right now? No, because they're playing as individuals. Every team is going to win some games, and every team is going to lose some. The Texans are a great team. They're well run. And at the same time, they're still down their top 2 receivers.
Right.
I don't expect them to go out and play lights out every week, given that. So while this is a promising turnaround for the Jets and a nice win for Ulbrich and company, I think that they need to rattle off a few more before people can really say that there's any chance they make the playoffs. They are still 3-6.
Right. And I think that, you remember after going 2-1, New York media was going crazy. Oh, we're going to win the division, headed to the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl run. And then a 5-game losing streak. And just very poor play from both your quarterback, your defense. Offense is just completely stagnant. But last night, Hassan Reddick, there's a reason why you got him. It showed last night. 8 pressures, tied for the most on the team. Quinnen Williams dominated the left guard of the Texans. Really had no shot at giving C.J. Stroud an opportunity to sit back in the pocket. Jets did a phenomenal job last night. So at least, do you have more confidence that they can maybe, I don't know where you have them in the AFC East, but depending on where you had them preseason, does this make you more or less confident that they can maybe take the division from the Bills?
I don't think there's a way they take the division from the Bills at this point. The Bills are a much more complete team. That being said, do I think the Jets have a chance to get a wild card spot? Absolutely. I think it's a very competitive conference, and there's at least some chance that the Jets can, maneuver it in such a way that they get to, 10-7, and enough teams lose enough games they can squeeze in.
So, what do you think, John?
10-7. That means they go. Was it 7-1 to end the year?
So they've got the Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, Jaguars, Rams, Bills, and Dolphins. I don't see them beating the Bills at Bills. Those other games, maybe, but the Rams, look at how they played last week. When they have their wide receivers healthy, they look like they could get back in it. It's the other teams, I'd say they're beatable. I don't know about the Colts. We were just talking about this with Joe Flacco coming in to play the Jets there. He's going to be on a revenge tour, I think. So I don't see the Jets. I said the Colts. I would say the Jets can only afford to lose one more game, one, maybe 2. No, I think if they lose 2 more, I don't think they get in.
Yeah, right? Because then you're down to a 9-8 season, the best. Yeah.
Chances of getting in the AFC with a 9-8 record don't look very good. So basically every game is a playoff game for them the rest of the way.
I would agree with you on that. I think the other team that you didn't fully touch on, but that would be a big threat to them, would be the Cardinals. I think they're better than people give them credit for.
I agree with that.
You guys think the Cardinals are a serious... What?
They won last week. Right?
To his first game back, and he choked late in that game.
Yeah, but they also beat who else? They beat the Rams, didn't they? They beat the Rams.
The banged up Rams.
Yeah. What's their record now?
Can you
they're
really say
3-5?
Are that much better of a team than the Dolphins? Is really my question to you.
Who? The Cardinals?
The Cardinals
or the Jets that much better than the Dolphins?
Here's my thing, right?
Hard to know. I mean, Tua's back now.
Right, and that's the thing. Yeah. How good is Tua going to be? Now, already coming back, his second game back is against the Buffalo Bills. John, do you think the Bills are a good team?
Absolutely.
So that means Tua's not going to perform very well because in Tua's history, he's 1-7 against the Bills. So coming back from two losses, back-to-back, coming back from your concussion, not the best way you want to start. And speaking about, the Jets, that opens the door for them as well, to at least get the number 2 seed in the AFC East.
Yes, I agree with you in that. But this second spot in the East doesn't necessarily mean that they're a playoff team.
That's right. That's for sure.
With the Denver Broncos 5-3. Just go through it.
Well,
the Cardinals
I think the Broncos are really turning a corner.
The Cardinals are 4-4, Nate. They're 4-4. I think that they'll give the Jets a run for their money. They're playing at Cardinals.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, too, the Cardinals are relying on a rookie receiver as their number 1.
Right.
He's only going to get better as he gets more comfortable in the offense. Kyler Murray looks as good as he ever has. I think that their offense is better than people give it credit for.
I think it's really just about, getting comfortable, having Harrison develop under the system. James Conner's still a great running back. And Kyler Murray, we saw against the Rams. The Rams couldn't stop Kyler or Harrison. I think, in my mind, I don't want to bet ever with or against the Cardinals. Way too much up and down for them. I don't trust them. I don't believe in them. Could they shock some teams? Absolutely. But they're a team they're one of the teams I just can't get a grab on because sometimes they're great, like last week and against the Rams where you could pull out some great victories, or there are games where they just completely fall apart, like the second half against the Bills in week 1. I can't get a grasp on them. So to say that they're a threat to the Jets, well, are we expecting the Jets of 2 weeks ago, or are we expecting the Jets of last night? I think that's the question that Jets fans, Jets media, sports media, they're all asking themselves right now.
I agree, but I think a Cardinals team playing at their best can beat the Jets from last night.
I agree with that.
So the Jets are going to have to play lights out to have a chance.
I agree with that.
All right, let's shift gears to the MLB. Unfortunately, though, your Mets were not able to pass the NLCS, but the Dodgers, though, they were able to pull out a Game 5 victory after the Yankees completely fell apart in the 5th inning, pulling out the Dodgers' 8th World Series victory. The Yankees finally made it to the World Series after falling short in the playoffs several times, but no, they were unfortunately not able to get their first World Series championship since 2009. I want to know, though, are you surprised that the Dodgers were able to finish out the series in 5 games after getting blown out in Game 4 and also being down 5-0 in this game?
No, I'm not surprised. Roberts is an outstanding coach or manager, and ultimately no team that went up 3-0 in the World Series had ever taken more than 5 to finish the series.
Right.
So the Dodgers were well within, history in doing that, and ultimately they're the better team. I think the Dodgers really proved that everybody else was just a tier below them this year.
Would you agree with my take that I had earlier? Both of the NLCS teams would have beaten the Yankees if they were in the World Series, the Mets and the Dodgers.
I think a Mets-Yankees series would have been much closer, but ultimately all I can point to is that the Mets swept the Yankees this year.
So I would say that you agree with that. Yeah. You agree that the Mets would have probably beaten them?
Yes, I think the Mets had a chance, and ultimately I think that 3 of the 4 best teams in the league were in the NL, the Padres, the Mets, and the Dodgers.
I 100% agree with that. To me, the AL was really the Yankees and then a large gap, but it seemed like the NL was kind of like, okay, the Dodgers series, that's the Phillies, the Mets, the Padres. There was so much more talent, so much more consistency in my mind with the National League than there was the American League this year. Think about the teams in the American League for the playoffs. The Tigers weren't going anywhere. The Guardians haven't had much success. The Yankees, I'll throw it out. Maybe it was a little bit of just a cakewalk to the World Series. Maybe.
I don't think it was a cakewalk. The Yankees had a period during the year where they couldn't win anything. They were a 500
team after being like the best team. There was a midway through the year. The last 50 games, they were 25-25.
And they won the division, but just barely. Again, Baltimore was a pretty good team this year.
Baltimore choked in the postseason, too. Yeah, you can't forget about that. That's the second year that they choked in the postseason.
Well, the average age of Baltimore's roster is still quite young.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think they have plenty of time to really compete. And a lot of those guys are still on decent contracts with years of team control. So I don't expect them to go away anytime soon. And with all of this playoff experience, they're only going to get better.
I mean, I had them, was it 2 years ago? I had them, was it winning the World Series? I had them at least making a deep playoff run. But how about the Yankees, though? They finally made it to a World Series after so long. Up to the World Series points. Soto, Stanton hitting bombs away. Judge, as per usual, not performing very well. 161 batting average. And in the World Series, up until Game 5, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at all. And then in this one, he finally gets hits. And he has the first drop, throughout the entire season. First error, and then, the fifth inning. Cole not covering first base. Volpe throwing a bad throw to third base. Judge with the error. A catcher's interference the following inning. I mean, the Yankees could not catch a break, and Cole, again, pitched a great game.
Yes, I mean, Garrett Cole was one of the best pitchers of the last 10 years, without a doubt, and he certainly has continued to prove that year after year.
Makes you wonder why
Unfortunately,
they took him out of Game 1 after 75 pitches. That looks like, I think people thought that was a big mistake.
Well, I think that they probably saw what happened to the Mets pitchers in the NLCS, where they just ran out of energy and could not get through the last couple of games there. And I think the Yankees figured it would be a longer series that they could hold up. And I think they were honestly trying to preserve it to a point where if Garrett Cole needed to go on short rest for a Game 7, he'd be able to.
I mean, the Yankees tried Luke Weaver pitching 3 straight days. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Aaron Boone was playing basically Russian roulette. It was Weaver's going to get out of this on pure adrenaline, or it's going to completely collapse into a deep abyss. And it looked like it was the latter part. I mean, Luke Weaver just could not get it done, and he was probably the best closer in Major League Baseball up until that point. I think it was like he faced 30-something batters or had 36-something innings, no ERA, 0 ERA. He was incredible in this game. Kind of just fell apart there.
Absolutely. I don't think that, honestly, this performance speaks negatively on the Yankees as much as it does speak positively to the Dodgers, their resilience, and their management all the way up and down. I mean,
where do you think Soto lands next year?
Hold up. Yeah, we have technical difficulties, John. Just give us a minute while we fix this. I don't know why it disconnected. Do we have you back? Do we have John back? Did we lose John? I think we might have lost him. So we'll take a quick break. We'll take a 30-second break. Hopefully we can get John back on the line. So bear with us.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Back on the line. World Series Game 5, you were saying that it says more about the Dodgers than it does the Yankees.
Yes. Ultimately, I mean, the Dodgers played how they should have. They really, I mean, what they did, considering how few pitchers they had left by the end, is really incredible. I mean, Dave Roberts, I can't say enough good things about him. And I mean, this really is a nice touch on what will most likely get him into the Hall of Fame.
I agree with that. All right, let's go over to top 10 teams. I haven't done a top 10 anything, quarterback or team list all season. We're midway through the year. I decided to do one. So I'll run it through for anyone who missed earlier in the show. Let's actually bring up the graphic for everybody. So if you're watching this on the podcast, I apologize. But 10 through number 1 is Broncos, Texans, Steelers, Packers, Vikings, Commanders, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Lions. So I want to say, do you agree or disagree with my top 10 list?
I think for the most part it makes sense. I was following along earlier as you went through the details. Just a couple of minor things. I mean, I touched on the Cardinals earlier. I think there's something to be said for them moving up into the top 10 in the coming weeks if they're able to continue this winning streak they're on. Beyond that, I wonder if the Commanders may be a little bit too high at this point. I'm not sure that their defense is good enough to keep them in the top 5 right now.
Interesting. So would you keep him in the top? I assume you would keep him in the top 10.
Absolutely. I think they're probably somewhere in more of the 7 or 8 range at this point for me, just because Jaden Daniels can't do this forever.
You think?
We'll see. We'll see. How about the Eagles?
Oh, yeah. Would you have the Eagles in the top 10?
I think they're still in the process of really rebuilding after their initial struggles this season. I think what you had said about them probably falling at 11 makes sense right now. If they're in the top 10, they're 10.
Okay. And I think the big one that I think is a shock to a lot of people, and I'll bring it up again for our YouTube audience. I had the Lions above the Chiefs, Lions ranking number 1 in the NFL. Issue with it, problem with it, or do you agree the Lions are currently, through 8 weeks, the best team in the NFL, even though Chiefs are undefeated?
Truthfully, I think the Lions exceed the Chiefs by a pretty decent margin at this point.
That's what I was thinking too.
I don't think it's particularly close, despite the Chiefs being undefeated. You know, the Lions, what they've done, despite missing, albeit the Chiefs are missing players as well, but the Lions are missing arguably their best player. And have still just absolutely blown out teams. Their defense is still unbelievably strong, despite missing, their anchor.
Right.
And, I think they've really impressed me at every turn. Jared Goff is having the best season of his career at this point, and he really has impressed me. I think they're a very well-rounded team. You touched before on Montgomery and Gibbs, their tandem really picking up for one another in bad games. I think you're 100% right.
I think sorry, continue. My fault.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the most shocking thing is that this Lions team is beating teams by an average margin of 17.3 points a game. 17 points. They're blowing teams out. Now, points allowed, and now here's the thing. You get into the analytics of the NFL, right? Total defense and points allowed. How do you define who's the best defense? Statistically, technically, because it goes based on the amount of yards you give up. The Titans are listed as the number 1 best total defense in the NFL. Points allowed to like 29th. So however you want to, go around it, whatever the case may be. But technically, the Titans are the best total defense. Lions just put up 52 points against them. They crushed them. And that's Jared Goff throwing under like 50 yards.
Yeah,
under 60 yards.
They just made defenses look silly. It really is extraordinary. And for Goff to be completing, 75% of his passes, give or take a point.
Well, since week 2, it's 83.5.
Yeah, I think this is the best he has ever looked. And you mentioned that he has an outside chance at the MVP. I 100% agree. I think that he certainly at least belongs in that conversation.
And just to imagine, though, he was a throwaway contractual piece. That was his role in that Matthew Stafford trade. It was just to get off his contract and make room for Stafford.
Right. I've always liked Goff more than the average person. I thought that trade was a bit unfair to him. I think it was more McVay just wanting something different.
I agree.
But they very much could have won a Super Bowl with Goff running at quarterback. It's just they went up against, what is arguably the best defense of the last 15 years against that Patriots team.
Right. Now, you have Lions at number 1. How do you round out your top 3? So you have Lions 1. Who's number 2?
I think you're right that the Chiefs are probably my number 2. They're not playing great, but they're finding ways to win.
Right.
And ultimately, you can only drop an undefeated team so much. They still look great. They're overcoming a ton of injuries and losses of players. They're still impressive. It's just they're not the Lions.
The defense is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So who's your number 3 then?
I have to go with the Bills. They're a very complete team. They finally have their receiver that they really needed as that one piece to an otherwise pretty solid team. They're in a weak division. I think they'll continue to just roll over most of the teams that they play. They're going to win a lot of games. I think they'll set themselves up nicely for the playoffs.
I agree with that. I think
Ravens.
I would have had the Ravens at number 3 if they hadn't lost to the Browns.
That loss was a killer.
That dropped them, in my mind.
I would agree with that. I think the Ravens are terrific, but ultimately they slip up a bit more than they should. They, that loss to a team with 1 win before that, albeit Jameis Winston playing terrific, they shouldn't have lost that game.
I agree.
Not with the team they claim to have.
Yeah. Well, you holding your head up high for the Jets, John?
I'm holding out for us finishing above 500. That's really what I want at this point. But really, I'm looking forward to a future. I'm looking forward to seeing what quarterback they take in this next draft.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. And also, I have to point this out. It's not one of our topics. Karl Anthony Towns, 44 points. Are we finally seeing what the Knicks are going to look like this season? Because I think so. 44 points. Brunson also contributing 20+. You got to fix Bridges' shot, though. I mean, that thing is ugly.
Well, ultimately, the Knicks have multiple players now who can put up 40 on you any given night. They're really testing defenses, and they're only going to get better. This is a trade for Towns that really only happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've had all off season to bond and connect as a team. I think once they hit mid-season form, if Brunson and Towns can trade off 40-point games, I don't know that there's too many teams that can beat that.
I'd probably go with the Celtics because they just decimated them in game 1, which should be expected. New team, not a lot of chemistry compared to a team. Brought everybody back, just won a championship, getting their rings, banner night, all of that. I did pick the Knicks to win. I was very wrong.
I know. You and I discussed this, and I certainly saw the Celtics winning that game.
So did I.
But if you give the Knicks another 50 games, 60 games together, everyone stays healthy.
That's the big thing.
I think that series could very well go 7 games.
Fair. All right, John, I think that wraps it up for us here. I appreciate having you on, as always. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for giving us much more time than I thought, actually, that we had. We had about, half an hour? So I thank you for taking all this time to come onto the show.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you both for having me.
Of course.
Okay, John. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, 30-second break, but coming up, we got our Week 9 picks in the book, so stay tuned for that 30-second break right now.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our second to last topic of today's show, which is our Week 9 picks. We do this every single week throughout the NFL season. We pick every single game, so let's jump right into it. I had a great week straight up. But what's crazy is you look at the bottom right, and you see 10-6 for the point spread, right? I got screwed over in the Harvey hot hand. 4 out of the 6 losses, were my Harvey hot hand picks. I was just very, very unfortunate there. So we'll bounce back, I'm sure, for this Harvey hot hand. But let's jump into the picks, of course. So last night, we both had the Texans winning and upsetting the Jets. That did not turn out to be the case. They fell 21-13 to the Jets. So, unfortunate. I start off 0-1 in both the point spread and the straight up. But let's move on to the next game, Sunday. Patriots at Titans. I'm saying the streak continues. When a team plays the Lions, the following week they lose. Now, the Patriots just got a massive win over the Jets. Did they play way over their heads? Yes. Will Jacoby Brissett, if he does play, go back to his old self and the reason why he got benched? Potentially. But I think I'm keeping the streak going. The team that plays the Lions, the following week they lose. I'll take the Patriots in an upset, obviously cover a plus 3.5 point spread. The next one's the Saints at the Panthers. It looks like there's a chance for Derek Carr to go in this game, and I think that's a massive plus for the Saints, obviously, because Spencer Rattler wasn't doing anything, and the backup to the backup quarterback wasn't doing much either. But I think going up against a Panthers team that I'm not sure if Andy Dalton's playing in this game, I don't think he will be. If Bryce Young's out there again, I'm very confident picking the Saints here. Better defense, better offense. The Saints are just a better team than the Panthers are. The Panthers, once again, for the third straight year, have the number 1 overall pick. Now, they gave it to the Bears, but they do have the number 1 overall pick once again. So I'll take the Saints to win and cover big, minus 7.5 point spread. The next game, Broncos at Ravens, a minus 9.5 point spread for the Baltimore Ravens. For me, that's way too many points for a team whose defense is dead last in passing defense. Meanwhile, the Broncos, Bo Nix is playing really, really well. He started off terribly to open up the year, go 0-2. Passing game was actually pretty bad, but the running game is picked up for the Denver Broncos, but the one bad side of that is they're going up against the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, so it will rely heavily on Bo Nix. I will take the Broncos to cover a plus 9.5 point spread. It's just too many points for me. I'll take the Broncos to cover a plus 9.5 point spread, but the Ravens do get the win. The next one, Raiders at Bengals. T. Higgins will be doubtful for this game, as well as Zach Moss also being doubtful. So if those two players can't go, I think there's an opportunity, and especially Max Crosby out there against a pretty bad offensive line for Joe Burrow to be pressured. They need to win this game, but I don't care who's the quarterback. I think right now, because Gardner Minshew actually played pretty decently last week, I think the Raiders will at least cover a 7.5 point spread. It's too many points for me for a Bengals team that should be much better than they are, but they've just fallen apart in recent weeks for me. I'll take the Raiders to cover a plus 7.5 point spread, but the Bengals do get a much-needed victory. Otherwise, their season is over as of Week 9. All right, next one is the Chargers at the Browns. I'll take the Chargers to win and cover a minus 1.5 point spread. They're getting healthier. The Browns will famous Jameis be able to step it up for game 2 with the Browns and pull out another victory? I'm going with no. I think right now Justin Herbert had a tremendous game last week, putting up 28 points. It's about time we saw the offense click as well as it did last week. I think with this offense getting healthier, Quentin Johnston will be back. I think J.K. Dobbins will have a decent game. The Browns played very good defense last week, and the offense finally had a 300-yard passer, but I think the defense of the Chargers will do better, force Jameis Winston to throw an interception or 2. Justin Herbert will capitalize. I'll take the Chargers to win and cover a minus 1.5 point spread. The next one, Dolphins at Bills. Tua coming off an embarrassing loss, 1-point loss to the Arizona Cardinals last week. The Bills also coming off a big-time victory, 30. They scored 31 points last week against the Seattle Seahawks. I think the major question is, and I'll repeat this later on the show, hint, hint, wink, wink, Harvey hot hand pick. Are the Bills a good team? Yes. How does Tua do against good teams? Poorly. 1-7 against the Buffalo Bills in his career. Not good at all. They don't put up a lot of points, don't complete a lot of passes. Now people are saying, well, it's going to be a nice warm day in Buffalo. That might be true, but what's crazy is that it's going to be 58 degrees as it's projected right now. Since 2021, the Dolphins are 4-14 in games at 58 degrees, or 60 degrees or below. So for me, doesn't really matter. Are the Bills a good team? We think so. I'll take Tua to perform poorly. Bills do win and cover a -5.5 point spread. The next one, Cowboys are underdogs against Atlanta in Atlanta. I'm taking the Cowboys to upset the Atlanta Falcons because I think right now Dak Prescott will have all day to throw. The Atlanta Falcons are blitz one of the heaviest teams in the NFL. They blitz one of the most in the NFL. Dak Prescott in this offense will sit nice and pretty because their quarterback pressure rate is one of the worst in the NFL. I said this all year. It doesn't make sense. You blitz one of the most, but pressure one of the fewest. Something's not working. Normally, the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, guess what? It is broken, but the DC of the Falcons ain't fixing it. Stop blitzing. It's not working. You're not generating any pressure. So I think Dak Prescott will have all day to throw. He'll find the openings. He'll find the creases. I think Rico Dowdle will find the creases. Ezekiel Elliott may have a couple nice hard runs. I'll take Cowboys in an upset. +3. I'll take it all day. Next one. Commanders at Giants. I'm shocked this is only -3.5. Is it because Jaden Daniels is still dealing with an injury? I'm not sure. But this, for me, was one of the easier picks of the week, and I say that, watch, Giants are going to somehow upset the Commanders this week. But I'm taking them. One of the best offense in the NFL, Jaden Daniels is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. The Giants just aren't that good of a team. Defense, Dexter Lawrence right now is probably the best pressure defensive player in the NFL. Dalen Jones still isn't a good quarterback. The running game's not great. The offensive line for the Giants has not been performing very well recently. It started off relatively good, but recently it's not been doing very well in protecting Daniel Jones. I think the Commanders will generate pressure. Think about it. They just generated 60% pressure rate last week and really caused Caleb Williams to be a no factor in that game. I think it'll be relatively the same thing with Daniel Jones. And this week, I'll take the Commanders to win and cover -3.5 point spread on the road. The next one's the Bears and the Cardinals. I'm not betting this game. The Cardinals, I think, right now, have an opportunity to win, and I do have them winning because I'm not sure exactly what's happening. This is basically a pick'em game. I think this may have moved a whole nother point in favor of the Arizona Cardinals right before the show started. But I think right now, after coming off a bad loss on the Bears, horrible offensive play calling for Chicago. Think about it. You had a defensive guy, a defensive player, Tyreek Stevenson, sort of taunting the fans, and the play was still going on. Get your head in the game. What are you doing here? If you have that level of sort of just nonchalant play, you're not a great team. You're not a very well-coached team. I'll take the Cardinals here. I think that right now, I would trust Jonathan Gannon, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison over Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams. That's just my own opinion. I'll take the Cardinals to win and cover -1.5 point spread. The next one is the Jaguars and the Eagles. Both quarterbacks performing very well as of late. I'll take the Eagles to win and cover a -7.5 point spread. Jalen Hurts right now hit a bit of a hot streak. Will that continue against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL? I think so. Now here's the big thing. Tank Bigsby has done better than Travis Etienne. We may see Etienne come back in this game. I think that may be a massive mistake if he out-snaps Bigsby because he's performing significantly worse, not as efficient, not as effective. I think the Eagles' defense right now is hitting a very nice high. Did a great job against the Bengals last week. The offense exploded onto the scene. I'm going to say we see something very similar to that. Eagles get a big-time win and cover a -7.5 point spread. The next one is the Rams, -1.5 point favorites on the road against Seattle. I'll take Rams, and I'll also swallow the points here. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, first game back after injury. They really reignited what this Rams offense could look like with Matt Stafford, with Kyron Williams, and Sean McVay being the head coach. Puka Nacua getting targets early. Cooper Kupp being a guy who could draw defenders away because of what he has done in the past and what he still can do. I don't think he'll be a trade target. I think whatever rumors those were got squashed after this game, the previous game against the Vikings, and that tremendous high-pressure defense. I think right now, the Rams, they're about to hit a bit of a surge after this win. They could actually be number one team in the NFC West. That's what they're playing for right now. I think they get the win, cover a -1.5 point spread, and beat the 12th man of the Seattle Seahawks. Next one, Lions at Packers. I'll take the Lions to win and cover a -2.5 point spread. They're the best offense. I know Jared Goff tweaked something. He tweaked some form of an injury this week, but I think he'll be ready to go. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, the best 1-2 running combo in the NFL. This offense beating their opponents by 17.3 points in each of those games on average. The Lions offense right now is unstoppable, scoring over 33 points. Jordan Love really hasn't practiced much. He started practicing recently. Will he be 100%? I'm not entirely sure. He's a game-time decision. I say you take the healthier, stronger team in the Lions over the Packers. And even if Jordan Love is out there, I think the Lions could capitalize on the mistakes that Jordan Love has been prone to make so far this season. I'll take the Lions to win on the road and cover the -2.5 point spread. Next one, Sunday Night Football, Colts at Vikings. Joe Flacco, I'll take him to cover, not to win. I think when it comes down to it, I think the pressure will get to Flacco enough so we can't pull out the victory here, but he's definitely an upgrade over Anthony Richardson. I would have taken the Vikings to win and cover the 5.5 if Richardson was still the quarterback, just because Richardson can't complete passes. He's a deep ball only. I call him an IRL Madden player because it's all deep shots. Try to get the deep home run ball. Take the easy stuff. Joe Flacco will. He already put up a couple nice games this season so far and looked great doing it. I think he has 7 touchdowns to only 1 interception so far this year. He's done a tremendous job keeping the football out of harm's way for the most part. But the Vikings will somehow be able to pressure Flacco enough for him not to pull out the victory. I'll go Vikings win, Colts cover a 5.5 point spread. And the next one, Bucks at Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs to win, but the Bucks to cover. 9.5 is too many points for a Chiefs offense and a Chiefs team that only won by 7 against a terrible team of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Bucks are much better than the Raiders, regardless if they have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin out there. I believe the Bucks will be better and are better than the Raiders. So I'll take them to at least cover a 9.5 point spread. The Chiefs were 8.5 point favorites last week and couldn't cover. 9.5 against a team with a better quarterback, better running game, better offensive line, better defense. 9.5, and they get a point more for the Chiefs? To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll take the Bucks to cover, but the Chiefs end up winning this game. My guess would be the score will be 32-27, maybe even that close. Who knows? But I do think the Bucks do cover a 9.5 point spread, and those are my picks for Week 9. As always, you have your picks, of course. I did go 12-4 straight up, 10-6 cover the spread. I'm still mad. 10-6, and 4 of the 6 losses. 10-6, and 4 of the 6 losses are my Harvey Hot Hand picks. Why can't they be in the 10 category?
That's tough.
Yeah, that's rough. All right, your picks now.
Okay, so mine are very similar to yours. Interestingly enough, I have the Patriots beating the Titans. I think the Patriots showed me something beating the Jets, particularly on defense. They rebounded. They definitely have a good defensive team. They haven't shown it so much in recent weeks, and last week they really did. I'm hoping Drake May comes back. Maybe not, but if they don't, then I like the Patriots. If he doesn't, I like the Patriots going back to that kind of ground and pound game, and with Jacoby Brissett sometimes running the ball as well and passing it sparingly. I don't think the Titans, they're 1-6. They're power ranking number 31. Patriots at number 30. So this is a game of the bottom of the barrel teams, but I do like the Patriots to pull it out. The Saints and the Panthers. Panthers are 1-7. They're the worst power ranked team in the NFL. The Saints, you said Derek Carr might be back. That would be a big boost for them. Even if he's not, who are the Panthers? They put Bryce Young back in there. Well,
that's because Dalton got into a car accident.
Got hurt. So, I don't know. I just see the Saints, and maybe not as bad as their record shows, and I do think they'll come back and win this game, even though they're playing at the Panthers. Broncos at the Ravens. I got the Ravens winning, but I don't think they'll cover. 9.5 points. They lost again last week after leading in the final 2 minutes. That's happened to them, I think, like 8 times now over the last couple of years. They've been outscored 95-58 in the fourth quarter. They got to watch out, man. They got to find a way to fix that. The Broncos are an up-and-coming team. Bo Nix, as you said, playing much better the last few weeks. They have a very good defense. The record 5-3, power ranking up there. NFL powerranking.com has them at number 11. You had them at number 10. They're an up-and-coming team. The Ravens, on the other hand, they got to do that ground and pound, I think, with Derrick Henry. Will they be able to do it against the Broncos? I think they will, enough to win, but not to cover. The Raiders and the Bengals, I like the Bengals to win this game, but not to cover. I think the Bengals have a very poor defense. They have one of the best quarterbacks, but they're 3-5. It's a must-win. I think they find a way to win. Gardner Minshew playing a little better. He's kind of an up-and-down quarterback. They got rid of Devontae Adams. Maybe that helps their locker room a little bit. They're 2-6. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Bengals are going to win. Chargers and Browns. I'm going with famous Jameis. I think he's going to do it again. And I think the Browns, they do have a very good defense, and it hadn't shown so much earlier in the season. It's starting to show, and I think that they will find a way to win this game against a Chargers team that is much better under Jim Harbaugh, has had some injuries. Most of those players are back. I think Justin Herbert's going to have a tough time playing against the Browns defense, and I think Jameis Winston's going to be having some more fun throwing the ball to the Browns wide receivers. The Dolphins and the Bills, I think the Bills prohibitive favorites here at 6-2, power ranking number 3, against the Dolphins, power ranking number 23, and 2-5 record. Tua coming back last week. Didn't look that great. They lost to the Cardinals. I think they're going to they're playing at the Bills. The Bills now with some star players. Amari Cooper playing for them now. Ray Davis, a rookie, showing a lot. Running back. Keon Coleman, another rookie, looking good. They've had 4 wins by 21 points. I think they're going to beat the Dolphins pretty easily. The Dallas Cowboys against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons at 5-3 and number 12 power ranking, looking pretty good, playing well at home. Dallas has got to have this game. This is a must-win for them. They got to get back to at least 4-4. I think they do find a way to win this game. I agree with you, and I think it will probably be an ugly win, but they're going to find a way to win this game. They got to get some of their defensive players back who have been hurt. They got to play much better against the run. Dak Prescott, stop turning the ball over, man. Throwing those interceptions are killers. They're going to find a way to win this week. The Commanders against the Giants, I agree with you. How's the point spread only -3.5 for Washington at New York? New York with the power ranking of 26. The Commanders with a power ranking of number 5 and a 6-2 record versus the Giants at 2-6. I just think the Commanders are going to find a way to win this game. And Jaden Daniels, wow. He's made a statement last week with that miracle throw. He's definitely the rookie of the year. Who knows? Maybe MVP. We'll have to wait and see. The Bears at the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals in this game. They've been showing us something lately. They're 4-4, power ranking 18. The Bears power ranking higher at 13 and a record of 4-3. But look at the way they played against the Commanders last week. Their offense had nothing. The first 7 possessions, they punted 6 times. I just don't think the Bears are clicking, really. They've had a couple of games where they started to look like they were, but I predicted they would only win 4 or 5 games this year, and I'm still sticking with that. I think the Cardinals are going to beat them on Sunday. The Jaguars at the Eagles. I like the Eagles in this game and to cover. The Jaguars 2-6, power ranking of 28. The Eagles 5-2, power ranking of 10. They play much better after the bye. They figured something out on defense. They've been very good the last 3 weeks. Jalen Hurts also playing much better, not turning the ball over. I think they're going to beat the Jaguars at home, playing at home quite handily. The Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks have lost 4 in a row here. This is kind of a must-win for them. They're playing at home. Their power ranking better than the Rams, 17 versus 20. Although the Rams, they found something last week when they've got both their 1 receivers out there. they're really fun to watch, and they play very well. And this is a game for first place. I think the Rams are going to find a way to win it on the road. The Lions at Green Bay, Jordan Love, a game-time decision with a groin injury. The Green Bay 6-2, power ranking 6. The Lions 6-1, power ranking 1. Last week, the Lions had 49 points, and Goff had 59 yards passing. Their running game, defense, and special teams are outstanding, and they're a very well-balanced team. They got the number 1 offense in the league. Jared Goff passing the ball at over 83% since week 2. It's with completions. I agree with you. I think they look like the Super Bowl team out of the NFC. I got them beating Green Bay, but I think it's going to be a very close game if Love can play. The Colts at the Vikings. I'm picking the Vikings and Vikings covering. I think the Vikings have fallen on tough times here. 2 losses. Their power ranking much higher than the Colts, 7 versus 19. The Colts at 4-4. I don't think they're going to find a way to beat the Vikings. The Vikings at home. I think the Vikings find a way to win this game and cover the point spread. The Buccaneers at the Chiefs. I'm like you. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but not cover. I think the Buccaneers suffering from their 2 wide receivers, number 1 wide receivers out. Evans going to be able to come back with a hamstring, but Godwin out with a knee injury for the rest of the season. That's tough on Baker Mayfield, although he played very well against the Falcons last week, despite those not having those receivers to throw to. I think it'll be a close game, but I do think the Chiefs will find a way to win and stay undefeated. They also now the Chiefs have Hopkins. Yeah. You know, that's big, and their defense is good too. So those are my picks, Nate.
Not bad. I'm shocked because when I was picking these games and I didn't know your picks at the time, and then you gave me your picks to make the graphic, I was stunned we were so close to one another.
Yeah, particularly on the point spreads too.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked that we each agreed with Broncos, Raiders, Cowboys, Bucks. I was a little bit surprised by that. All right, it's time, and of course, even though I'm down on my luck this season, I still love doing this topic a lot. I love doing it. We call it over here, we call it the Harvey Hot Hand. I pick the 5 games and teams that you should bet on every single week. This is brought to you by Dr. Squatch. It's switched up a little bit. Now when you spend $30 or more, you get 3 Fight Scrub bricks as a $24 value. That's added to your cart absolutely free of charge, and that's for new customers. So if you spend $30 or more using the link down below or go to drsquatch.com/Nathan Harvey, you spend $30 or more and you're a new customer, you get 3 free Fight Scrub bricks. $24 value just for you. But let's begin with the first one. Once again, I got screwed over last week because I went 10-6 in the point spread. 4 of the losses were my Harvey Hot Hand. I got absolutely screwed. Let's turn around in this one with the number 5 pick from me. I'm praying we can turn this around. We need to go back in a winning streak here. Here's my first one so far, my Harvey Hot Hand Week 9 edition.
Broncos at Ravens.
So this one for me is just too many points. Bo Nix right now in October, he's been the best rookie in the NFL. He's first in completion percentage, passing yards, touchdown to interception ratio, and he's second in passer rating. The defense for the Broncos has been surprisingly incredible. They have a tremendous pass rush now, which I think is the most shocking part. Levi Wallace and Pat Surtain are the best cornerback combo, second best cornerback combo in the NFL, with Pat Surtain being an absolute lockdown cornerback. He was dealing with an injury, but he's making his way back now and seems to be still pretty great. 9.5 is way too many for me, especially for a Ravens team that just lost to Jameis Winston and didn't look particularly well in doing that. Lamar Jackson didn't practice on Wednesday and Thursday, but he's back today, and he did practice today. But is he 100% healthy? I'm not entirely sure. With the pass rush that the Broncos have, with the lockdown offensive coverage that the Broncos have, Bo Nix playing hot, I'll take the Ravens to still win 28-20, but The Broncos do cover a plus 9.5 point spread. The next one.
Lions at Packers.
So this is the best offense in the NFL. The Detroit Lions, they are number one, 33.4 points per game. They're blowing teams out by an average margin of 17.3 points. It's incredible. When it comes to the Packers, though, Jordan Love dealing with a groin injury. Will he be 100%? He's a game-time decision. He also, when he's out there, way too many turnovers. I don't like the amount of interceptions he's throwing, putting his own team in harm's way. So I think with the Lions, the way they're playing, the way their offense has been playing, they'll be able to capitalize on Jordan Love's mistakes. When it comes to Jared Goff, though, he's on a historic pace, with completion percentage and overall efficiency. Brian Branch, when Aiden Hutchinson went down, they needed a new defensive leader. I think Brian Branch has stepped up, and he's been playing out of his mind. Jahmyr Gibbs and also David Montgomery, the best running back duo in the NFL, hands down. I'll take the Lions to cover a minus 2.5 point spread and win 35-32. Bet it. Go for it.
Commanders at Giants.
This one, how's it minus 3.5? This for me is the easiest pick. Is it because they barely beat out the Chicago Bears? They had to win on a Hail Mary? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to take it. Jaden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback overall over the course of the entire season so far. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. I think it's pretty... Unless Caleb Williams really picks it up and Jaden Daniels really falls off, I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. They have a top 3 offense in the NFL, though, the Commanders do. Dan Quinn, this is a shocking stat. Dan Quinn has only allowed Daniel Jones to surpass 200 yards a singular time. One time. Dan Quinn's defense absolutely obliterates Daniel Jones' his effectiveness, his efficiency, all of it. Makes him a zero factor against whatever team Dan Quinn's coaching or head coaching in that regard. I think right now, if we look at it, we already seen a version of this. The Commanders and the Giants did play earlier, and the Commanders had, They never punted on 7 drives. They went into the red zone. They went 0-6 in the red zone. I think that's going to change around in this one. Give me the Commanders to win 26-21 and cover a minus 3.5 point spread. The next one.
Commanders at Dolphins at Bills.
There we go. Dolphins at Bills. I have a couple questions for everybody. Are the Bills a good team? Yes. How does Tua do against good teams? Bad. Tua is 1-7 against the Buffalo Bills in his career, and the only win was by a grand margin of 2 points. That's the dominating victory, the sole victory he has against the Buffalo Bills, a win by 2 points. Against the Buffalo Bills, Tua has a 61% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks, a 74 passer rating. He averages under 200 yards, 199.8 passing yards per game. He loses by an average margin of 19.85 points. He gets blown out by the Bills every single time. It's expected to be 58 degrees over at Highmark Stadium, but it doesn't really matter because since 2021, the Dolphins are 4-14 in games where it's 60 degrees or below. And guess what? Those 4 wins were against Chicago, Washington, and the Jets twice. So it's not like they're going out here against the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills. No, they're beating up against crap Chicago with Justin Fields, Washington with Sam Howell, no offensive line, and Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle. These are not good victories here. Give it to me. And also, in those 18 games, the Dolphins quarterbacks complete 61% of their throws, 20 touchdowns to 18 picks, and have a passer rating of 86. So it doesn't matter. We a lot of people say, well, there's no such thing as a warm or cold weather team. No, the Dolphins are a warm weather team. You look at them, Tua does not win. He has 0 wins when games are 45 degrees or below. And guess what? The Dolphins don't win at all when it's even 60 degrees or below. They're 4-14. Give me the Bills in another dominating victory, 30-20. They cover a minus 5.5 points, but give it to me. I'll take it all day, every day.
Rams at Seahawks.
Final one, Rams at Seahawks. I said, I think earlier this week, the Rams have screwed me over every time I bet them for the Harvey Hot Hand. But at 1.5 point spread with Puka Nacua back, with Cooper Kupp back, with the Seahawks without DK Metcalf for another week, I will take this at 1.5. We saw last week against a tremendous pass rush of the Minnesota Vikings, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp changed how the offense of the Rams looks. Matt Stafford looks and feels better in the pocket. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua getting open. Puka getting easy, short routes, flat routes, hitch routes, whatever you want to say about it. He's tremendous in every single aspect of receiving. He's a tremendous threat. Meanwhile, Cooper Kupp can still be that threat, but it seems like he more so draws defenders away and opens up holes for Kyren Williams, gives opportunities to Puka Nacua. I mean, the Rams' offense is going to look much better with both them healthy. Seattle's defense could not stop Buffalo. 31 points given up. I mean, they couldn't even stop the running attack of the New York Giants a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's bad. I expect Cooper Kupp as well as Kyren Williams to have great games. Nakua's dealing with a little bit of an injury. So I expect Kupp to have a great game, Kyren Williams to have a great game, and as well as the Seattle offense to look somewhat stagnant because we saw last week, you barely put up any points against Buffalo and you didn't have DK Metcalf. Well, it came out today, Metcalf ain't going to be there this week. I'll take the Rams to win 27-24, cover -1.5 point spread. We need to have a winning week. I feel great about these picks. As always, brought to you by Dr. Squatch. Go to drsquatch.com/Nathan Harvey. If you spend $30 or more for new customers, you get 3 free Fight Scrub bricks, a value of $24. Get it down below. Use the link or go to drsquatch.com/Nathan Harvey. New customers spend $30. Get 3 free Fight Scrub bricks, value of $24. Absolutely free to you. And as always, I ask you about my picks, of course, the ones that you hate, the ones that you dislike, and the ones that you think are better. So rain it in on me. What do you think?
I think it's a tough week to pick, and I think your picks look pretty good. But the one that I thought might be easier than the Ravens Broncos would be the Saints Panthers.
If Spencer Rattler's the quarterback, I don't feel great.
Yeah. Well, that would be the only one that I might question.
Okay.
So good luck. I hope you do better than 1-4.
I should go back. I got to look at the film, the ones that you suggested. What would my record be? Oh, so I have this. So you would replace Broncos Ravens with Saints Panthers.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to have to go back, look at the film on Tuesday. If I get screwed over again, I may need to consult you about some of my picks for a Harvey Hot Hand, because you may be right. Who knows? I'll look back at the film. But yeah, I think that does wrap it up for a nice long episode of the Harvey Hour. Thank you, John, once again for coming on to the show. I always appreciate you taking your time for us here on the Harvey Hour.
Thanks, Sean.
But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday to recap all of Week 9, 6:30 p.m. Right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.